Calling the meeting to order. Let's see. Do we need to excuse all of them, or are we expecting
We
them?
have not heard from Wes or Charlie, so let's excuse them at least until they get.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve Mr. Corder, Mr. Hollis, and Councilman Rivenbark, right? Am I missing?
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to take 2 points of privileges before we start. Ken's up first.
Is that you?
I want to thank the chair for this point of privilege. And it is a privilege because what I'd like to do is I would like to offer a letter of commendation to our friend and partner, Deputy Justin Brown. So reading from that letter of commendation. On February 27th, 2023, Deputy Justin Brown was assigned to the CFPUA main building on Government Center Drive, and on foot patrol checking the exterior of the property, noticed smoke coming from bushes at the southwest corner of the building. Deputy Brown quickly notified 911 communications. He then pulled his patrol vehicle around to the side of the building, preventing vehicles from getting near the fire. Retrieving his fire extinguisher, he proceeded to battle the fire, providing time for the Wilmington Fire Department to respond and saturate the area with water to ensure the fire was completely extinguished. So I'd like to recognize Deputy Brown for his quick thinking and cool professional response in this event. Without his diligence and his watchful patrol, the fire could have been much worse, posing a threat to the building, to the public, to our employees, and to nearby motor vehicles. Deputy Brown has also taken the initiative to provide updated security reviews to numerous CFPUA facilities and has demonstrated the highest standards of professionalism in his service to our employees and to our customers. I hereby offer this letter of commendation to Deputy Brown, copies of which will be sent to Sheriff Edward McMahon and Deputy Brown's command staff. On behalf of our organization and the customers we serve, I extend our thanks to the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office for our relationship of trust, service, and support.
You're here.
Thank you. Two other quick notes. Friday was belated Employee Appreciation Day, so on behalf of the board, we would like to just send an appreciation to all of our employees at CFPUA. So thank you. And today is International Women's Day, so I want to recognize all the women on the staff, and thank you. And I appreciate everybody wearing purple in support of International Women's Day as well. So thank you all.
Got some purple.
Okay. Moving on, I think that's it for National Days Up. Thank you, Wes, for joining us. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and moving on to the minutes. Dr. King.
Yes, the minutes from our February 8th meeting are included in your packet, and as usual, in my estimation, they are thorough and accurate. Thank you to our female clerk. And if there's no discussion of those minutes, I'll make a motion to.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, moving on to public comments. I think we have some public speakers signed up. Just as a reminder, during the public comment section, individuals are limited to 4 minutes. I will gently remind you when you are near your time, and a 20-minute limit total for all the comments. But I think we only have 3 speakers, so I think we're good. Thank you.
And you know which one you need.
Good morning.
Good morning.
No, I think we'll be okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity and this time. I am Kathy Kaysen Clark. I am the developer of Country Haven Subdivision's daughter, Donald Kaysen. I have lived in Country Haven personally in my forever home for 23 years. As the developer's daughter, my father started purchasing that property in 1979. In 1986, we actually opened our first section of Country Haven. So I've been involved in this all of my life pretty much, or pretty close to it. But back in 2012, 2013, my father came to you as the board of directors, which I realize several of you were not sitting on this board at that time. There's actually only 2 board members that were sitting on that board when he made this presentation in 2013, which were Councilman Rivenbark and Mr. Sneeding were sitting on the board at the time. So I realize this may be new information to you all, but I wanted to share a video clip from your board meeting of my father making his presentation of the impacts that were currently, that were currently happening at the time that this presentation were happening. Back in 2012, 2013. It's down there. Okay. There was actually a study done of the well fields that were placed, which were 25 wells that were placed behind our community. And let me go ahead and turn this volume up some here so that you can hear this. I don't think you can hear it. Can you hear it now?
It's quiet.
Yeah. It's not coming up with the volume. That's 100%. I don't want to get it too loud. My father was a soft speaker.
Ms. Clark, I'm going to need you to, if you have something to state after the video, I'm going to need you to wrap it up.
Okay. You can all view this video later. We actually are, it goes on and shows the pictures of what the impact was then, and we are actually experiencing the same impact. In August this past year, 2022, we actually had a Zoom meeting with your staff. Mr. Smith actually stated that the monitoring of the wells was discontinued. I believe that this was an error on the board, and I do realize that it was not, or you didn't, or weren't aware of what the impact was of the pumping on those wells. From there, I would like to introduce one of my neighbors, Mike Farrow. He is part of our community, and he would like to make a presentation as well now.
Mr. Radio.
Yes.
Hey, Jonathan. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Board, for allowing us to address you this morning. I am Mike Farrow, a Country Haven resident for 25 years, and today I'm going to briefly go over the independent study conducted by the Groundwater Management Association, the GMA, and paid for by the CFPUA, which was presented to the CFPUA board on January the 9th, 2013, which that video refers to, by Bill Like. There are 3 slides I'll highlight from the unmodified presentation, the overview, the conclusions, and the recommendations. The overview reads, this presentation is part of the larger project, the Aquifer Sustainability Project, which will be completed in late spring 2013. The purpose of this current investigation is to determine if the use of the New Hanover well field, that's the Castlehane Aquifer withdrawals, influences the water level of the superficial aquifer, the pond water levels in the Country Haven area, which is what this is all about. And we sent you this information in the videos of this January the 9th, 2013 CFPUA board meeting Monday, this past Monday morning, so that you'd all have plenty of time to review it and understand this community issue that we are having with the CFPUA. After Bill Like from GMA read this overview slide to the board, he stated, and I quote, "I'm going to do a spoiler. I do not like to find the answer at the end. I will take it ahead. There are a couple of factors that affect the water table elevation, and one of those is the withdrawals from the well fields, the Castlehane well field," end quote. As you can see by the conclusions in front of you today, the draining of our ponds has happened again for the same reasons as they did before. The recommendations from the study were to manage withdrawals from the Castlehane well field to meet system requirements to supply water to the public while minimizing influence of the well field on water levels in the Castlehane aquifer at the pond, to continue monitoring water levels in both superficial and Castlehane aquifers at the pond to aid in adjusting the well schedule. You had this study done, you followed the recommendations for 6 years, then removed the monitoring equipment, then the pond levels started having issues. The ponds were receding at 6 inches per day. If you had maintained your well field management plan, the ponds at Country Haven Community would not have a devastating effect on the pond's ecosystem and or the surrounding areas. This is why our community has been so devastated. We're submitting this petition signed by 96% of the residents in our Country Haven community to you today. That includes our demands as follows. There are 11 demands here. Shut off I and C pumps, cap and never use them again. That's 1. 2, stock 1,000 fish to include each of the following in each pond. There are 4 ponds: largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, carp, catfish, bluegill, and perch. 3, return ponds to normal state after water returns, which includes removing non-wetland grasses and remove debris from all ponds. 4, repair any sinkholes in the area for the next 10 years. Pay to maintain ponds for 3 years using a certified pond maintenance company of our choice. 6, remove and pay for replacement costs of any damaged dead trees in and around the pond areas for over a 5-year period. 7, conduct a GMA independent follow-up of the 2013 study of the ponds to document changes. 8, pay an independent engineering company of our choice to certify any unsettled foundations, driveways, pools, and any other damages caused from land slumping. 9, pay to repair those damages to individual homeowners and, in the case of the HOA common areas, to the HOA. And 10, repair damage to drainage pipes which connect 2 ponds. And 11, if damage to the aquifer is beyond repair so that ponds will not recharge as evidenced by independent study of the community's choice, remediate all pond areas only with community agreement, including filling in all ponds, incorporation of and implementation of drainage plan, planting appropriate trees for the environment, grass replacement, and any other necessary vegetation and or needs in order to make whole. Thank you for listening to me today, and I submit this petition to you today.
Thank you, Mr. Farrer. And our third speaker? And I neglected, if you could state your name and address, I apologize, I should have said that at the beginning.
morning. My name is Steve Worrell. I live at 223 Country Haven Drive in Wilmington. Get this. Good morning, board members, and community members. I feel lucky to have a great neighborhood like Country Haven, and that's why I'm wearing a green shirt today, like my neighbors in the audience. In 2022, we saw the ponds recede 6 inches per day. We put together a Zoom meeting on August 11th, 2022, with the residents, 3 staff members, Rob Zappel, and Representative Deb Butler. The staff told us that the issue was more or less caused by drought. They actually referenced drought 7 times. My research showed on May 31st, 2019, CFPUA issued a mandatory water restriction in New Hanover County because of a drought. Our ponds were full. In addition, Director Vandenhaden explained that the ponds would be recovering in New Hanover County when New Hanover County stops using irrigation around mid-September. This was mentioned 3 times. Staff admitted they removed the monitoring equipment in 2019 and were not following the 2013 monitoring well guidelines set to prevent the drawdowns and the draining of our ponds. Mr. McSmith stated that he would get the equipment for the monitoring wells back in the field, get the data together, share the results in November, and gather the contact information for those with foundation issues. That date came and went with no explanation. There was no mention by the staff of the GMA study at all during this Zoom meeting. Some community members mentioned that they knew something was put together around 2013 but could not remember what. This is when CFPUA could have been transparent about the GMA study but failed to mention it. Based on what we were observing at the time of this meeting, some of the concerns were water was still in the nearby ponds but not ours. Cracking issues in foundations due to land slumping. Wildlife and fish were gone. Changing of the natural wetland ecosystem. More mosquitoes. Fear of decreasing home values. Shallow well concerns regarding geothermal AC units, failure and issues. I think it's worth mentioning in 2022, CFPUA issued only a voluntary water restriction. Irrigation is one of the ways you make money. For 1 gallon of water a customer buys from CFPUA, we're charged 1 gallon of sewer. In the case of irrigation, it's not processed because the water is going onto the lawns. So it's a win-win for CFPUA. A mandatory water restriction during the summer would have limited your bottom line. You just move water from one area to the other, creating the disaster in the Country Haven community. You're now responsible for that issue that it created. Sounds like you're not being a good neighbor or even following the company's values or mission. In fact, it's the pond, as the ponds sit today, the dry, dead grass, the trees are a perfect storm for a major fire which needs to be addressed now. You have a big job here, but even bigger job to manage the resource like it's explained in the GMA study you paid for. I'm one of the homeowners with the damaged foundation and pool. On September 20th, CFPUA staff came to my house to determine what to do. They said that they would contact ECS Southeast to check on the foundation and the pool. I'm requesting all communications regarding my inspection between ECS and CFPUA and a copy of the contract. On November 3rd, ECS came to my property, at which time I asked for the credentials and the purpose of the inspection. He said that they were documenting the structural foundation and pool only, not to determine causal factor. He conducted a 4-hour inspection. Okay, will do. On November 15th, I asked CFPUA about the report email and the response for the week. I called Miss Smith and no response. She replied that he's being interviewed by the CFPU lawyers and would be in touch with me. I finally contacted Gary McSmith on January 25th, asked what's going on. The next day, he responded the HOA would receive a letter and the data on February 1st. I would receive the letter with my house report the same day. On the letter to me, CFPUA misrepresented the report findings by stating the ECS did not find a causal factor, which they weren't there to do. CFPUA lack of respect for the Country Haven community,
Mr.
ponds.
Worrell, if you can wrap it up, you're well over time.
Thank you.
If your comments are written, we'll take the comments and
Okay.
distribute them as well.
Okay, in closing, I want CFPUA to restore the ponds to the natural wetlands, comply with the petition demands, make homeowners whole in regards to the individual damage, and implement policies and procedures to make sure it doesn't happen again. I look forward in talking with you in this matter and come to an agreement. I can be reached at cfpuapondinfo@gmail.com. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you all for your input, and if you'll make sure that Donna gets written copies of, if you had a presentation, we appreciate all the emails as well. What I'd like to do is go ahead and direct staff to initiate an investigation and provide a report out to the board at our next meeting. And we'll continue, we'll address, go from there. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for attending, we appreciate it. Enjoy the green, nice and patty cake. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Can I take a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Moving on to new business, administrative reports. Do we have an attorney's report?
No, we don't, but we do need to go into closed session to discuss two claims.
All right, thank you. Ken, executive director's report.
Yes. Before I offer some additional comments, we have before you the key indicators report, the safety report, the environmental report, and the strategic plan update. Staff is here to answer questions.
Go ahead, Mr.
A couple of notes on the key indicators, Ken. I noted that the number of meter installations is up, which to me indicates we're having some relief of the meter situation, which is terrific news. Have we gotten to the point where we can replace any of those meters, the irrigation meters that we took out, or are we still building up to that?
Just real quick, so we did get the first shipment in that was about 400 meters, and those were the AMR meters. They were basically spoken for in terms of, reserving some for domestic, and then starting to work on the backlog of the irrigation. The second set of about 510 meters has shipped, but they're in Texas right now, and have been holding in Texas for several days, but they are on their way. We have our third shipment of about 1,500 meters that is set to ship the third week of this month. So we were definitely working on the backlog so that we can get back to our regular process.
I know you're painfully aware of this. We're coming into the kind of the growing season, and to especially the development and the builder community, this is a huge deal. You can't sell a house without a lawn. You can't have a lawn without some irrigation. So I know we're aware of that, and I'm sure we'll give some priority to those accounts. Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Also, there's a follow-up question from last month, and maybe Carl, it has to do with the Southside wastewater treatment plant in Cockeye report. It still seems to linger at a very, very high level. And compared to the north side, I I know we addressed this last month. Could you please readdress it? And, you know, are we looking at a trend, and is this a problem?
Sure. On the environmental report,
Yeah.
There's several indicators for Southside. One of them is the enterococci, and the others maybe suspended solids that tend to get higher in the wintertime. And when you compare that to Northside, at Northside, the plant performs very much more steady during all seasons. The difference is the differences in treatment technology between Southside and Northside, where Southside has 1970s technology that is one of the drivers on why we want to replace the treatment plant beyond, other than that it's at the end of its useful life. We are still meeting all regulatory compliance. Staff is doing a great job in leveraging what we have at the plant to meet permit compliance. As the weather starts warming up in March and April, the trend's typically starting to come back down to normal levels. This is something we see every year, and we, as staff, manages it very well.
Have we seen it to this extent every year? Because, you know, the 1 year window in the graph we have shows this to be something of a spike. And it's now been 2 months that we've seen this, you know, it's not a little, I mean, it's elevated. But, you know, this doesn't, I know it concerns you, but it's not of a major concern.
It concerns us. We're focused on it. It's at similar levels as it was in 2020. And we know that the trend will come down as the water starts warming up and the biological activity gets more active as the weather gets warmer.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you.
I have 3 other items, if there are no other questions regarding the reports. Okay. The first I'd like to mention is an update on the growth policy issue, and in particular its application to the community of Rock Hill. So on February 23rd, staff joined our chairwoman and board member Hollis Briggs at a meeting with the citizens of the Rock Hill community, which we believe was very fruitful in terms of delivering and receiving information. 2 days before that meeting, on February 21st, your staff met with County Manager Chris Gorget and his staff to further develop strategies to address the concerns of the citizens of Rock Hill and other communities that are impacted by Chemours pollution. Now, those strategies include a path forward to create a grant program that could fund 1 or more water stations sourced from the Sweeney Water Treatment Plant. Surveys to better understand or help us better understand those who might be willing to connect to CFPUA infrastructure when the opportunity is available, and a proposed $450,000 study to prioritize the top 10 communities in need, along with the engineering estimates necessary to extend CFPUA service to those communities. Any questions on that part of the update? Item number 2 is I will be traveling to Washington in 2 weeks, from March 21st through the 24th to support the water industry as part of the National Flying In for Legislative Matters. Our attorney will be joining me on the 22nd, and we have scheduled meetings with our congressional delegation where we'll advocate for special funding for the Southside Wastewater Treatment Project and continued appropriations for customer assistance programs such as the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program. And then item number 3 is I encourage you to join us on Friday, March 10th from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. for CFPUA's Annual Service Awards. It will be at the UNC Wilmington Bernie Center at 609 Union Drive. Emails reminding you will be sent out today. Thank you. That's it.
Any questions for Ken? Okay.
Ken, I think I probably saw it in there, but the top 10 communities have been identified, or is that in progress?
So the concept is the county staff have agreed to put forward a funding proposal to commission a study that CFPUA will manage. That study will update the septic prioritization study of 2007.
Right.
It will also look at the groundwater contamination data and on a risk analysis basis, make a recommendation for the top 10 communities that seem to be most at risk. The study will then provide Class 5 cost estimates for extension of utilities to those 10 communities.
Right, so we don't have the communities identified at this time.
No.
Right.
And it would take about 12 months if the Board of Commissioners for New Hanover County included in their budget. We'd need an interlocal agreement between our two agencies to take in the money and to administer the project. And after 12 months, we'd have that list of prioritization. And then what we've committed to do as your staff is to use that list to write grant applications to the community endowment, seeking all or partial funding for those top 10 communities. Depending on the answer from the community endowment, we can then turn to the state and look for opportunities to fund through grant or loan the balance. If it is loan or if there is balance unfunded, then we'll have to have conversations with this board and with the New Hanover County Board to see what solutions might be available to close the gap.
I'm assuming that the communities we're talking about go beyond the unincorporated portions of the county. They do reach in. Are we looking at the areas inside the city of Wilmington as well? Or
No,
not?
because we are providing City of Wilmington with Sweeney water. So we're really looking at the unincorporated areas where there is either, where there's private wells, which has been the tension point, the policy tension point.
I know that on the perimeter, there are still some areas that are technically in the city of Wilmington that are may not be covered by CFPUA. I just want to make sure that those areas are not ignored, that this study is comprehensive so that we don't, for bureaucratic reasons, ignore people who need this kind of priority.
Absolutely, sir. And if we could speak offline, we can ensure that we are looking at those areas as you understand them and as we understand them.
Great. Thanks.
I had the employee recognition ceremony on my calendar ever since it was first announced, and then found out this week that my schedule was completely scrambled and will not make it. But I certainly want to make sure to express my appreciation to the staff for all that they do. For it's not real cool these days to get a job and stick with it for a long time. It's bouncing around, and I'm certainly an example of that. But it's very admirable that they, and it says a lot for the organization and the employees, that they are able to establish that relationship where they're happy to work here for extended periods of time, and they certainly do a great service for everybody in the organization. So I appreciate the efforts. I'm sorry I'm not going to be there at the ceremony to recognize that, unless my schedule changes again.
Thanks, Mr. Steve. All right, moving on to committee reports. The executive committee met last Wednesday. The minutes from that meeting are in your packet for review. Moving on to long-range planning committee, Mr. Sneeden.
Yes, the minutes of our February 23rd meeting are in the packet. Our item on the agenda for that meeting was the capital improvements plan, and which I think is included in the packet, but we will be having a workshop after that meeting, so I don't need to go into that. So, look forward to the workshop here after this meeting.
Okay. All right, moving on to Finance Committee, Mr. Norris.
Yes, the minutes of our March 1st meeting are in your packet for your review, and I'll ask John McLean, our CFO, to give a monthly update.
What is this doing, Don? I'll see escape. Is this it? Yeah. I found it. Where it is. So that's the PDF. Let's see.
It should be right beside it, or.
I got it.
Got it.
Yes, thank you so much. Slideshow. Okay. So this is a look at our year-to-date performance, revenues versus expenditures as of the end of January, so 7 months through the year. You can see on the operating side, our revenues have exceeded our expenditures by about $7.9 million. That's kind of a normal trend. We see a spike in January normally. We have some large debt service payments that occurred at the end of the year that are going to drive that number down. If you wanted me to go ahead and forecast an operating surplus, I think that we will have one. It'll probably be around $4 million, a little bit lower than last year, just a preliminary guess at that though. And obviously our recommendation would be to tuck that money aside to reduce the amount that we're going to have to borrow for Southside, which we will talk about at length in the CIP workshop. So that brings our total fund balance picture to this. Total fund balance is around $98.2 million. And you can see that our unassigned fund balance after all the restrictions and assignments and commitments is around $53.2 million. Any questions there? Excuse me. I did want to provide just a brief update on the rate study that is part of the broader consolidation work that we're doing with Wrightsville Beach. There are some major touch points there, both for a consolidation scenario and a non-consolidation scenario in terms of SDCs on the consolidation side and wholesale rates on the non-consolidation side. So there's some big touch points. Next month, I'm going to be bringing a formal presentation on SDCs and wholesale rates. But just to kind of, I guess, tease the topic, we are working with our rate consultant, and they've proposed a widely accepted and widely used method for calculating both the SDCs under a buy-in approach and wholesale rates. So regarding the SDCs, that calculation is indicating a 78% increase compared to what we currently have. Now, however, that SDC that's 78% higher than, or indicating 78% higher than what we currently have, is still 25% less than Pender County, who is our I guess our next lowest neighbor. That's the SDC for our next lowest neighbor. So still under our surrounding communities. So we looked at Brunswick County, we looked at H2Go, and looked at Pender County. So that's just a preliminary look at that. SDCs, to the extent that we can increase those, that takes pressure off of retail rates, making average bills more affordable for our customers.
Now, who sets the rate in Pender County?
They actually just published a study by Stantec. We're using Raftellus. Stantec is another rate consulting firm. They've published their proposed SDC, which combined for a single ERU for water and sewer is around $10,500.
Now, that's lower than what they currently have, which is, I think, just over, I think it's maybe $11,300. So they're proposing a drop, but ours is around $7,800. That's what our calculation that we worked with our rate consultant is indicating is $7,800 compared to Pender County is $10,500.
Lower Cape for water still provide water in the county other than the utility.
Lower Cape Fear does provide water for Pender County.
That's just in the developed parts, because most of it's pretty much rural without water and sewer.
Right. That's correct. Their SDCs are generally higher. They use a slightly different method where they have this forward-looking approach, and so they're looking to build out that community, and so they have this forward-looking approach versus our backward-looking approach. And so what that means is they're forecasting to do a lot of development and laying down new infrastructure and expanding capacity.
I guess they're working hand in hand with the county government there.
I couldn't speak to that.
I know that they're kind of stepping down on development somewhat in the county, limiting growth and jamming up developers at the same time. So I'm just wondering how that works.
And that it could be a reason for that drop in the SDC there.
We can provide an update. What we're looking at is we're looking at the SDCs of our 3 nearest peer utilities, which is Brunswick County, H2Go, and Pender County, which is an independent utility department within Pender County. Brunswick County, Pender County, and CFPUA all acquire raw water from the lower Cape Fear. And what John is teasing is that we have some early data from our rates, fees, and charges study that suggests that we have the opportunity to raise our system development charges. That is not a requirement, it's an opportunity. And we offer it up as part of the mix of our total budget discussion that will be unfolding over the next couple of months.
That's right.
I will share this with you. We are having considerable conversations around housing affordability here. And CFPUA should be at the table and should be a key component of those conversations, which means finding ways to reduce fees to help affordability here. When you look at the average firefighter, deputy that we just honored, making $45, $50 grand a year here, it's a challenge for them to afford a home here. The average first-time home buyer price point here is now around $400,000. And so as we look at shifting fees up, it's making housing affordability even less. And so for many of your employees, as you start to hire more folks, they'll be living further and further away because they can't afford to buy a home in our community. And, you know, we just convened a 25-plus member committee representing New Hanover, Pender, and Brunswick and Columbus counties with the NC Leadership Forum looking at housing affordability for this region. Elected officials, other folks that are related to this conversation, but really trying to find ways to increase access to housing. When you look at Columbus County and Pender counties, there really aren't many apartments in those communities, so folks are strapped trying to find something affordable. And so we're also looking at county government and city governments to figure out how can we reduce our fees and incentivize developers and others to help with housing affordability. And I see our organization on the flip side of that, where we're not trying to engage in that conversation. I think we hide behind some general statute that says we can't reduce fees with X, Y, and Z. And my conversation is change the general statute, work with your local delegation to make those things happen, to be a player in the game. Pender, the northern part of our county is where growth is going to take place, we know. And I've been saying this for a while now. If you know you've got a challenge and you start increasing rates, it's going to make our challenge as a community even harder. And when you got $57 million in a fund balance, those are the times when you become a partner with your community and a player in the game and not just look at raising rates for the sake of raising rates. Again, we are in a housing affordability crunch in our community. There's our first home, I paid 80 grand for a brand new construction. Those things don't exist anymore. And again, for an average teacher making 35 grand a year, if they're single, they can't afford to buy it. So when we raise our rates, it affects those people too. We're talking about developers, but it affects those people too.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Barfield. And that, I think that housing affordability piece will be a key part of that conversation. So it's finding that balance between housing affordability, I guess, taking the, the thought process that the SDC is baked into the price of a home, right? And also, I guess, just regular retail rate water bill affordability. So those are the two things that are on the opposite, I guess, sides of the scale there. So it's trying to find the balance between the two. But that will certainly be part of the conversation that we have.
I would encourage the administrative team here to get engaged in the community. Commissioner Zappa, we just had a forum this past weekend. There's another forum taking place at UNCW this month. There are a lot of things happening around this conversation, and you all are not at the table. So you don't know outside of your own silo within your office about what's happening in the greater community. I challenge my county manager and our team as well to be engaged, but they are engaged. But you don't know what you don't know, and I would encourage you all to come to some of these breakfasts and lunches and understand what's happening in the greater part of Rutherford County.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Waddell?
Yeah, just to echo Commissioner Barfield's comments, I read an article recently that says nationwide, roughly 30 to 40% of the cost of a home that's being built right now is in fees and development costs and soft costs that go in before a shovel even turns dirt. So when we talk about looking at things through affordability, I mean, obviously we're not the only region, but it's hitting us hard. I certainly agree that CFPUA needs to be at the table and doing everything we can to be a conduit of success for the development community and in the end the home builder and the person buying these houses.
So what else that you got as elected officials, when you hear about these things, forward them to the staff so that we're aware of those opportunities? Go ahead, Commissioner Zappa.
First of all, I'd like to, defend a little bit. I know that since Ken came on board, he's made a concerted effort to attend all of the Lower Cape Fear Water and Sewer Authority meetings, which doesn't sound like much, but it had not been done in the past. And so having that bit of, knowledge of what's happening here regionally has really helped a lot. And I appreciate Ken's and our other staff who have shown up, and Carl and Frank have shown up as well. The thing that concerned me about John's work is always great, but the comparison to Pender County, what we do here at CFPUA is, I don't believe it's a true apples to apples comparison. Our sophistication of ours, the size of our water distribution and sewer distribution system is way outscaled from Pender County, who has not done, I'm speaking Pender County, has not done a great job of distributing throughout their entire county. The western part of Pender County is without water and sewer other than septic tanks and wells. They focus solely on the eastern part of that, Hampstead, Surf City, in that area there. So it pains me to hear us make any kind of a comparison with them. We are so much more advanced in so many different ways. So to hear that we're comparing our SDCs, in trying to, as a mild justification for us raising it, I think we should choose another metric and look to other communities. Even though I know Pender is right next to us. I just don't think it's a good comparison. That's all, when we're trying to look for reasons why we want to lower or raise our SDCs.
So, with the chair's indulgence, I want to acknowledge the comments that have been offered around the table and share two thoughts with you. One is that we're presenting data points. We haven't made recommendations yet. It's incumbent upon us as your staff to let you know what is possible as part of the portfolio of revenues that will be necessary to meet our expenditure needs, especially around capital. So this is a data point. And I want to continue this particular part of the conversation in the CIP workshop. The second point I wanted to share is I especially appreciate Commissioner Barfield's comments around affordability. We have those comments and conversations within staff. We do not have a staff resource that is attending the public forums, but we are closely monitoring that, as well as a number of other community metrics, because we have to understand our role in the community and what we recommend and how that impacts the community to live up to our vision that we are adopting. So we are aware of those conversations. We are aware of the challenges. And within your own budget, some of that data has been used to support, for example, the salary modifications that came forward last year, and you'll see some very familiar data and information coming forward this year. If you would like us to have a more public presence, I would offer to do that. And we'll talk offline about that. Thank you.
Just to follow up on, same with the wholesale rates, I guess the logic there is that our existing customers have fronted the money in terms of capital to provide wholesale customers with their full allocation. We've traditionally billed wholesale customers based on their actual usage. So you can make the argument that our existing retail customers have been funding infrastructure that's attributable to wholesale customers. And so the methodology that Raftellus has put forward is really purposed with closing that gap, which indicates, at least on a preliminary basis, an increase in wholesale rates. And you know, the same logic there is true. That's another revenue source that, if you increase it, reduces pressure on retail water and sewer rates. So just to finish that thought there, and we'll be having a more detailed presentation and conversation next month. Any other questions?
Actually, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
So, of course, when I'm thinking about people wanting to buy a home and how much it's going to cost and how much pressure our rates, our SDC charges put on them, I'm also thinking about, you know, housing affordability. If you're in the market to buy a house, you're already winning the game, right? I, of course, as part of my role here, I'm always thinking about the people that keep getting their water cut off because they can't even afford our bills. So 20,000 feet, what's an extra $1,000 SDC amortized over 30 years, the cost of a mortgage, roughly?
May I respectfully interject?
Yeah.
I think that we might have a more fruitful conversation around that aspect and others as part of the workshop. If we may, as staff, hold that question and promise to try to answer it.
I also just want to see if John
workshop.
could do the math in his head. I'm just joshing.
No, I can't.
Just joshing.
You got 1 hour.
I'm like, I bet he can. I bet he can do it in his head. No, that's great. I just wanted to raise the point that we're talking about apples and oranges, obviously. But thank you, John.
And I wanted to give John a chance to work out that math on paper.
I'll pull up Excel and start crunching some numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Yeah.
That's it for finance.
That's it for
Okay,
finance.
moving on to Sustainability Committee, Dr. Cannon.
Yes, the minutes from our meeting on February 23rd are in your packets. We had a discussion about our goals of reducing our carbon footprint by 43% by 2030. We've engaged a consulting group that we are looking to partner with to find the most efficient and effective ways to pursue those goals. I don't believe we're doing a presentation today, but there's an outline of what we discussed in your packets for your review.
All right, thank you. Moving on to consolidation study update, Mr. Heckman or Mr. Stephen.
I guess the ACR did a presentation at the February 8th meeting. Was unable to attend, and then all that's basically been done this month in the month of February. But the CFPUA and the town of Wright Beach have decided to extend the deadlines out as far as the study period in order to get some rate studies in. we're having the same discussions y'all talked about here on that side too. So we're waiting for more information because that's a big part of the whole formula.
Deans, what does ACR mean?
HDR,
Oh, HDR. I thought you said ACR. Okay, thanks.
the group that was here.
Yeah, oh, yeah. No.
I'm
I
sure
just-
you
I
asked
just-
some questions.
No questions. Just didn't understand the acronym.
Just to clarify a little bit, that there's not much that is going on this month that's, has involved meetings, or has been public. There's been a whole lot of number crunching, in the background to try to prepare this information. And so that number crunching, is what's, causing the delay to, so we can get those financial numbers in.
All right, thank you both for participating in that. Any old business to come before the board? Any update? Okay. Any last Q&A, closing comments from anybody? All right. And we need to move into closed session to...
Discuss claims and get advice from your attorney.
All right.
So moved.
So, all right, 5 minutes, everybody. Thank you.
That was good.
That was good.
Yeah, real good. Yeah, I like that. Every time, you get a bee in your bonnet, man. I like that.
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to make my
There's a lot
point.
going on
Everybody else to be more.
around these conversations that, they should know what's going on.
It should, they're part of it.
Young mothers
You
have
know,
a
we
lot
got full housing
bleeding hearts.
breakfast
That's
and
why I don't.
coalition meeting and.
Square that away, then
And
y'all
they're
can
not
do
there.
whatever you want.
Yeah. There's a raindrop at each one of them.